All right, so today we're diving into something uh, pretty fascinating. I think
Yeah,
it's Japanese counseling
absolutely.
with a counselor named Teru Nakashima.
Yeah.
And the source material that we have looks like it's maybe pulled from like a training manual or a course for aspiring
Oh,
counselors.
cool.
But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot here that
Yeah,
we
for
can unpack and learn from. So,
absolutely. And I think what might be really interesting for you is that Nakashima kind of blends a few different
oh, okay.
like schools of thought in his counseling.
Okay.
So he brings together this idea of self-affirmation, also Adlerian psychology,
Okay.
and then also something that he calls the aesthetics of humanity.
Aesthetics of humanity. Okay.
So have you ever encountered Adlerian psychology at all?
I have heard of that name,
Okay.
but I can't say that I know a lot about it.
Okay.
But it rings a bell.
Yeah.
It's something to do with like an individual's place in society or something.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So Adlerian psychology really emphasizes this idea of social context.
Okay.
So like where we fit in,
Yeah.
and also finding like a sense of purpose and meaning within that context.
No, interesting.
And it's all about understanding how our relationships and our interactions with others shape us into who we are.
Oh, okay. So I can already see like the connected link.
Yeah, for sure.
So how does Nakashima bring all these different things together?
Yeah, so he lays out what he calls these three principles of thinking.
Okay.
And the first one is taking a long-term view.
Okay.
So instead of getting caught up in like, our immediate anxieties,
Yeah.
our stresses, Nakashima really encourages us to like step back and make the bigger picture.
Okay.
So things like what brings us joy?
Okay.
Where do we ultimately want to be?
Yeah.
And he believes that this focus can really help us to deal with like everyday challenges
Right.
without losing sight of, what really matters.
Interesting. Right. That makes a lot of sense because it's really easy to get like bogged down by the little setbacks when
Totally.
you don't have that like bigger picture in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm already finding this helpful, and we're only on the first one. So what's the second one?
Okay, so the second principle is all about perspective.
Okay.
And Nakashima uses this really cool phrase.
Okay.
He talks about detaching from colored glasses.
Okay.
Which I think is a really powerful way to
Yeah.
describe like challenging our own biases.
So he's basically saying, like, we need to become more aware of our cognitive biases,
Yes.
like all those mental shortcuts that we take.
Exactly.
That can sometimes lead to, like, really distorted thinking.
Yeah.
So we might see a situation through the lens of, like, past experiences or assumptions that we have
Right.
without even realizing it.
Exactly. And there's actually a really great example of this in the source material.
Oh.
So it talks about this counselor who initially perceived their client as like lazy and unmotivated.
Oh,
But then as they sort of detached from their own colored glasses,
right.
they realized that the client was actually struggling with a learning disability
Wow.
that hadn't been diagnosed.
Okay.
And the shift in perspective really like completely changed their sessions.
Wow, that's a powerful example.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like,
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, what color glasses I'm wearing.
right.
Without even knowing.
Totally. It's a great question to think about. And
Yeah.
it's like a continuous process,
Yeah.
of like self-discovery.
Right.
But Nakashima also talks about how our individual colored glasses are shaped
Okay.
by what he calls blood knowledge and land.
Blood knowledge and land. Okay, that's a pretty vivid image.
It is, yes. So he's referring to the influences of our family and like upbringing.
Okay.
That's the blood part.
Okay.
And then also our education and experiences. That's
Yeah.
knowledge.
Okay.
And then also like the cultural environment that we're in.
Land. Okay.
So land,
Gotcha.
and all of these factors really contribute to our worldview,
Yeah.
even if we're not like consciously aware of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this kind of leads perfectly into this next concept,
Yes.
which is
Keichao.
keichao,
Yeah.
which is the art of listening in Japanese.
Yes.
And this goes way beyond just like simply hearing words.
Right.
Right?
It's about really deep empathetic listening.
Okay.
So it involves truly understanding the speaker's intentions,
Okay.
their emotions,
Right.
and even like the unspoken parts of their message.
Oh, wow.
And Nakashima really stresses that it's not about imposing our own like interpretations
Right,
or
right.
solutions.
Right.
It's about creating a space where the speaker feels like truly heard and understood
Okay.
so that they can come to their own conclusions.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So he mentions a specific technique
Yes.
for achieving this kind of deep listening,
Right.
which is maintaining a slightly higher state.
Yes.
than the person that you're listening to using your voice and gestures.
Exactly.
That sounds kind of like an energy thing.
Right. Yeah, it's about like embodying this sense of calm and confidence
Okay.
that can kind of subtly guide the speaker towards
Oh,
a more positive or hopeful state.
okay.
But it's not about taking control. It's about just providing a supportive and encouraging presence.
That's really fascinating. It reminds me of like how some people just have this like calming presence,
Right,
you know, and
exactly.
they just make you feel like more at ease.
Yes, and that sense of ease is actually super important for building what Nakashima calls thorough trust,
Okay, thorough
or
trust.
tate shinrai in Japanese.
Shinrai.
And he actually considers this like the foundation of effective counseling.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this concept of thorough trust.
Yeah.
So what makes it different from just like regular trust?
Yeah, so it goes beyond simply trusting what we already know about a person.
Okay.
It's about trusting their potential,
Oh,
even the parts that might be hidden or undeveloped.
okay.
And Nakashima breaks down thorough trust into these three key elements:
Okay.
encouragement, empathy, and respect.
Okay, those are the building blocks.
Yes.
But where does respect fit into all this?
So for Nakashima, respect is the foundation,
Okay.
because you can't truly encourage or empathize with someone
Right.
unless you fundamentally respect them as an individual.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And he actually distinguishes trust from belief.
Oh,
So he argues that trust encompasses the unknown,
okay.
you know, the potential that we might not be able to see yet.
Right.
And it requires this leap of faith,
Okay.
like a willingness to believe in someone,
Yeah.
even when they might not believe in themselves.
Wow. So this thorough trust sounds like such a powerful force.
Yeah.
Especially in like a counseling setting.
Right.
But I'm also thinking about how it could apply to all different types of relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Nakashima's work offers a lot of really valuable insights
Yeah,
that can enrich like our personal relationships, our professional relationships.
for sure.
Um,
So,
yeah,
wow, this has been such a great deep dive.
it has.
We unpacked like Nakashima's 3 principles of thinking
Yes.
to get a clearer perspective.
Yeah.
We explored this idea of deep listening through Kichao.
Yes.
And we uncover the power of thorough trust
Absolutely.
in building meaningful relationships.
It's been great.
Yeah, so,
As you continue to kind of explore these ideas,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to think about how understanding these principles,
okay,
particularly this concept of thorough trust,
okay.
might shift your own interactions with people.
Oh,
You know, what kind of colored glasses are you wearing in your relationships? How might you cultivate this deeper sense of trust
yeah.
with the people in your life?
Those are great questions for us all to consider.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. It's